Hey there, guys. Brian here, and man, do we have a great show planned for you. So stick with us, and we're going to jump right into it. On today's episode, we sit down with Jarett Ray Reddick, and we talk about his Bowling for Soup career, his Texas country music career. We talk about all sorts of crazy stuff, including maybe even an energy drink or a beer or two, and some bootlegging into other countries. But stick with us for a wild ride. You're going to enjoy this one.
Good morning, man. Texas Country Today podcast. Dusty Moats here with my good friend, Brian Sprague. Man, we are excited. We've got an amazing show. As you can see, we've got Jaret Reddick on the line with us. But before we get to conversation, I want to talk a little bit about our sponsors. First off, smithmusic.com, one of the best distributors in Texas music and around the country. Second is going to be R. Watson Boots. Man, if you haven't checked out their wares at your local Western store or on their website, you got to check those out. Third is going to be Texas Select Beverage, non-alcoholic beer, teas, coffees, lemonade, and of course my favorite, root beer. And then, man, this is kind of the special one. Good friend of mine, Sharp's Leather Supply. They make amazing guitar straps. Josh Ward, Randy Brown, myself. They've just got another one from what I understand that they're going to be giving to Brad Paisley. He also does DOP kits, all kinds of cool stuff like that. Man, love Josh Sharp. And I know you've got a couple, Brian, that you've been kind of doing some stuff that you might want to give some shouts out to. I know you normally do that. Who else do we have on our list?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say Texas Country Day Radio launched a while ago, and pertaining to this podcast, I actually have 2 tickets that I got to figure out how to give away for Jaret's show on the 18th up at Dan Silverleaf. So that'll be kind of fun. I do want to give a shout out to Cinco Audio, who provides all of the microphones, as well as I'd like to give a shout out to Fort Worth Camera. They helped me out with a project recently, and it helped immensely. So,
well, right on. Now that we got all the semantics out of the way, Jaret, I want to talk with you about a life-changing question that really changes the world, something that I know you can identify with. Tell me about this item right here.
Yeah. So, man, I did my kid, he's 10, but him and all of his friends are just crazy about this crime.
Dude, I get it. I have a 10-year-old that is the same exact way.
Okay.
When you posted it, I had to laugh because I was like, Jesus, it's not just me.
No. And in fact, we got to get you on my show, man, but, and we'll talk about that. But man, I did that as just, as you guys know, social media is an interesting animal. Sometimes and I'm very active on TikTok and that stuff. And sometimes I literally do things just because I think, okay, well, people will be able to relate to this. And so I did what the hell is this Prime? Somebody educate me. I don't want to Google it. I want to have people explain it to me, and man, I mean, the responses I got back were like, you're killing your children, like it just all of this crazy insanity of and I'm like, hold on, we don't let him have the caffeinated stuff.
The energy drink, right?
There's an energy drink and there's a hydration drink. And though none of it is just accessible to him, like he gets one every once in a while as a treat. But man, and then after I did it, I saw Justin Nunley, who's a big TikToker, do the same thing, and he got the same. I mean, but he has 8 million followers, and people are just, and it was like, dude, relax, man. I'm just really talking about the hype because it must be the greatest marketed product of this generation because they love it.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. So I live on Eagle Mountain Lake area, Saginaw, Fort Worth, right? And you can't. We were laughing because we finally found some in the grocery store after like 6 months. Like literally, and I'm going to tell you, he likes it so much that like I was on a road trip. I did a show in Colorado. And man, I pulled in this convenience store in the middle of this armpit of nowhere town. And the convenience store had them for $4 a bottle. And I bought almost every bottle they had because I know how much he liked it. It reminds me of the Beanie
Yeah.
Baby trend, or the Beanie Baby trend from
Yeah.
like when everybody was looking for those dinosaurs and all that weird shit that was like 20 years ago. And like
Yeah.
literally these
Yeah.
kids are going nuts.
It's very much like I have older kids, and it's very much like they went through this thing called silly bands.
Yes.
And but I would think for y'all's generation, it'd be almost like Pogs.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, it just. I mean, it's just it's crazy, but yeah, and it's so funny because that video didn't even do that great for me, but it made such an impact on people because it hit everybody that I thought it would, everybody that could relate to it, you know, and which I guess I can't ask for more than that, but like when we're on the road, my friends will just point up, Jarett, in Kappa Prime right here. You need to pick some up, and so. But he gets some in his Easter basket, and he gets a little bit here and there. But rest assured, everyone, I am not feeding my child the one that has like 12 Jolt Colas in it worth of caffeine. He doesn't even drink caffeine. But man, it's a great conversation piece, and I actually knew what it was. I mean, I know that it's backed by YouTubers and you know Logan Paul and Jake Paul.
Isn't
and
it
those
KSI
guys.
too?
And
like
again,
the guys that are doing all the boxing stuff now. It's all those guys that are doing.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of crazy.
And I don't even understand how those kids figure out who that is. Like literally, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, well, again, it's the Logan Pauls of the world, man. I mean, you know that guy. So my 17-year-old, that was his television. Was the Paul brothers. That kid never watched TV. He never had to. And I mean, now my 10-year-old's kind of the same way. Like they just have the YouTubers that they like, you know, the ones that they have access to, and they can kind of watch that stuff. And you know, but you know, and that guy's, you know, he's one of they're both boxing now, I guess, but that's how they know, man, and it spreads. You know, it's crazy to me. You know, you think about like when we were kids, and like the one kid that like has an older brother that got into anything, and all of a sudden this kid brings a Ninja Turtle to school, and everybody goes, "Whoa, what is that thing?" You know, and then we're all just like, "Okay, we've got to have those," and so. You know, but trends are funny, but they're so different these days because they go so fast. And, you know, like I feel like this is going to be another one of those things where it's going to be like, remember All Sport? You know, like it's probably, you know, who knows though? You can't really predict.
You're talking about the hype of it. What was crazy is Canada, I'm not even going to get into everything Canada's doing, but Canada was actually going to ban Prime, you know, off the shelves. And Logan got on there and he's like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. We don't even have a distributor in Canada. And another TikToker got on there, went down to the local convenience store in Canada, and sure enough, Prime's on the shelves there, but they don't even know how the product's getting into Canada. So the hype is like crazy on it.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
That's
just it though. It's those secondhand distributors or whatever. Like, you can get anything anyway, right?
Dude,
I mean,
it's you know, and the funny part about it is how this translates to music, right? Think about how social media has really brought products, people. Look at what we're doing with music now. We were talking to McBride and the Ride yesterday, and we were talking about, you know, and we were talking about how there used to be one main tastemaker, and that was radio. And then what's happened, there's now four. You got radio, streaming, social media, and live shows. You got people that are getting their music across to all these entities. And that viral piece, that streaming and the social is such a huge piece of what we're all doing, which is part of the reason why you were doing the dang Prime video. Given something to talk about, 100%. Right?
That's all that was trying to get more parents to realize that I'm on the outlet, you know, like that's pretty much it. But yeah, it's and you know, I mean, again, and it's been silly too, you know, it's sort of like that silliness and getting parents to rant, but you know, it was it's a pretty crazy product, but you know, and not anything like what my youngest son, who's 10, as is yours, has seen before. We've never really had a thing that he just had to have before, or you know, that he really, really wanted. Or like I said on the video, he had one that he swore was exclusive, and he didn't want to drink it in front of his friends because he didn't want to make his.
You
friends
said
feel
that,
bad.
yeah? That's so odd, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, your mom just picked these up off. I don't know. I guess she ordered them off Amazon. I don't really remember how she got them at the time. To be fair, I mean, everybody says they can't find them, but I see them everywhere. But I guess it's just because I'm so many places all the time. That's got to be it. But I do. I see them. I saw them in some. You see them at really random places, like you said when you were on the road. Just some random convenience store, literally in the middle of nowhere. Just have a whole end cap of
dude.
it.
Well, I'll tell you, like Albertsons, Walmart. Like, dude, you go, and here's the funniest part. Like, the Walmart here is like the biggest thing in Saginaw, right? And it's always empty. But here's what you find. I guess shoppers are drinking it in the store because there's always 3 or 4 empty bottles and lids where the space where it's supposed to be. It's almost comical how ridiculous it was. Now his excitement for it has kind of waned a little bit, but man, I remember when we first started seeing it, it was like, dude, it was like an injection of like goofball, right? He would just go bananas, and I'm like, son of a gun, and he had to have it at football, and he had to have it at baseball.
Yeah. I feel like it's like this. Here's my analogy for it, because you're exactly right. Like once he had 7 of them in a drawer, the first 3 went really fast, and then it just sort of waned. And I feel like it's like one time we can't get Miller Lite in the UK in my band Bowling for Soup. And so one time some friends of ours wrapped some up and checked it as luggage and brought us, like, bootlegged us some Miller Lite, right? And the first day everybody had 2, and then the next day we all had 1, and then 4 days later there were still some sitting in the refrigerator. Like the hype of it was gone, and we were just like, okay, let's just get back to what we were doing, what we normally do in the UK. And but anyway, it's that whole Prime thing is an interesting thing, and it's been fun to watch him, with that, because again, fads haven't really, they don't have. Kids don't really have the clothing fads that we had, and all of those different
Jared,
things.
I don't know your exact age, but I think you and I are pretty similar. I'm 50, and we had
so
you had C. Cavariccis and Jabro jeans and Kepa high tops, all that stuff.
Kepa with the remember the Kepas where you could change up the colors?
Yes.
My big one was my first one that I remember. Obviously, Nikes hit, but I had an older brother, so I got a pair of Nikes pretty early. But it was obviously Air Jordans, but British Knights. When I was in junior high, man, everybody had to have a pair of British Knights. How do you like?
Yeah, they got banned in our school.
Dude, so something funny. The Jordan craze is back. Like my 10-year-old.
Oh yeah,
like he is. Man, there's a pair of shoes. I wish I could carry this in there mobile. He like treats shoes like he treats Prime. Like, dude, there's a pair of, I don't even know who it is. I think it's Giannis. He's got a pair of Giannis Jordans that, man, he buys this special stuff and that they get just a little dirty. He's in there scrubbing them. Dude, you're like, what in the hell, man?
It's a whole different thing. We used to wear ours though, like you'd get Air Jordans and you'd actually wear them. These guys, they wear them out. And then you're right. I mean, it's not something they want to wear out and get dirty, but yeah, the sneaker thing is a crazy deal. My oldest son, 17, when he was in junior high, he was like buying and selling shoes on the internet and making a few bucks here and there. And it was, and again, like I used parental controls. Like I'm in charge of that. He wasn't doing anything that was like super black market or anything. It was literally like just this like network of his friends, and it was crazy. He, how he had it figured out, but man, it's a whole thing, dude.
So I really love your TikToks, and you actually, I'm gonna stay on this TikTok trend for a second. You actually said something that really hit home for me. You were talking about Ozzy Osbourne and the Crazy Train, and dude, I agree. That dude scared him, Alice Cooper. All those guys just scared the heck out of me. Like they were these scariest people, and you didn't listen to their music because you were gonna just rot in hell or spontaneously combust or something. Like, but
that's right. Yeah. I'm from Wichita Falls, Texas, and we pretty much, that guy was the devil. And I on that particular TikTok, I actually show the photo of him where he's like spitting out this jelly stuff, and it was it's a different photo that's on the cover of his album Speak of the Devil, and I didn't know what the term Speak of the Devil meant, so I just assumed it meant like that he was talking about the devil all the time. Scared the crap out of me, man. And but I eventually, what's funny is Ozzy Osbourne Crazy Train would be the thing that actually got me into music. When Greg Norman brought it to school in his Walkman in the 6th grade, and I heard that song, and I was like, holy crap, what is this? I didn't realize it sounded like this. This is amazing. I want to do this. And shortly after that, Motley Crue and Rat, and it was over.
Yeah.
But
so it's fun.
But it's so funny to see. So I'm so sorry, Dusty, but to me, it's like I look at my wife, who's much younger than me, because I'm a rock star. I look at my wife every time, like we're at a sporting event or something, and like, Crazy Train comes on, or they play Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss, and I'm just like, this is so weird. It's just such a weird thing, and I guess it's probably not unlike, when Elvis was the devil. It's got to be something similar, but and then kids singing it in commercials, and I played a video of my son and his friends on a trampoline, and they know all the words to Crazy Train because of the troll.
That I'm going to tell you. So I have a 26-year-old, and I've got a couple grandkids too. What was interesting about my 26-year-old, his musical tastes were changed the moment Guitar Hero came out, because they took a bunch of really kick-ass songs like No One Knows and dude, I'm laughing, like Frankenstein by Edgar Winter. And my kid knows all that shit. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm floored that he still to this day pulls from that pool of things when he was a kid, like what you're talking about. And they know the words to all these songs, and they weren't even alive when they came out. It's amazing what has happened.
No, it's Tony Hawk Skater.
Yeah,
too.
bro. Yeah.
I mean, that
totally.
That influenced the whole, that's the thing that like got my original genre of music, into everybody's houses. And it is crazy how kids remember, that they know that song from playing that game. And it's the same, Guitar Hero. Yeah, I remember that my kids were a little young for that, but they're 20 and 17. Yeah. But, I had friends that would play it, like, because, adults played
I loved
it. It was just a whole thing. Yeah. And but I just remember thinking, gosh, this is so funny. Just the songs that they're playing, as you said, some of these classics that you thought, man, that's just gonna die a slow death, at some point. But there it is, and they still like that stuff, and they'll talk about it too. They'll be like, oh man, I could nail this solo on Guitar Hero.
How were your parents? So with all that music like Ozzy Osbourne, I guarantee we have similar experiences. How were your parents with those records? I have a funny story, but how were your parents with seeing that?
My life is pretty strange. My dad was a Church of Christ preacher.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And so you would think that I was censored. I had no censorship at all. I actually got to watch whatever I wanted. We got cable in the 3rd grade, and I'm going to be honest, we had zero supervision. And it was like we were watching whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted, HBO, Cinemax, and all that stuff. And it's and that's a big. My kids did not have that luxury. But yeah, I mean, I think, so I had. It was nice because I had Skinemax right during the age where I really needed it.
Skinemax.
And we're you're picking up what I'm putting down. And
well, the funny part was, even if you didn't have it, you would still watch it between all because cable didn't quite have it figured out how to not make the channel, so you could make out little parts in the middle of the lines, right?
Yep.
Yeah. There was always that friend that had a VCR, and but yeah, my parents were cool. My dad only said something about my music one time. I mean, I got told to turn it down and stuff. But the big thing with them was I'd always try to figure out the lyrics. And you didn't have the luxury of being able to type into a computer and find the lyrics back then. So I would play it over and over trying to figure it out. And if I was doing that at night and my dad was home, he would come back and say, you've got to stop. doing that. Like and I don't even know why I didn't have a set of headphones. I don't know that I ever even owned a pair. But the only time my dad ever said anything about my music was the power steering on my truck went out. I was driving a '69 Ford Ranger at the time, and so I was not strong enough to be able to get it out of the parking lot that it was in and drive the thing. So we drove to it, and then I got in his car, and I had a cassette in the thing, and it was NWA.
Oh no!
And it was that
Oh
song.
my God!
It was that song, "Nobody Move, Nobody Get Hurt." And I mean, it's like, it's as dirty as dirty
Yeah, dude,
can
that
be.
whole
'Cause it's
album,
like talking
dude.
about I mean, it's just, and so because I was a metal kid, and metal kids at the time we listened to NWA, we listened to
Did you
Public
do Ghetto
Enemy, we
Boys,
listened to Luke Skywalker. Yeah, all
dude?
that
Yeah,
stuff, So there was a weird crossover there where, we all everybody that listened to Slayer listened to
yeah,
Public
bro.
Enemy,
Yeah.
and yeah. And so anyway, that's the first time where he was just like, "Yeah, I don't know what is this you're listening to," and I was just like, "Yeah, well, it's a cultural thing, Dad," and yeah, he just shook his head and
You
off
know,
we
the funny
went.
part,
So
like sidebar on me, like, sorry, Brian.
You're
I
good.
had all the albums you're talking about. I had Shout at the Devil. I had Crazy Train. The one my dad chose to get on me about was 1984 by Van Halen. And he
oh
was bitching
wow,
about Drop Dead
interesting.
Legs and Hot for Teacher. He goes, "What is this shit?" And I was like, man, God, if you only saw the other ones I had, you know what I mean? If he only saw the other albums that I had, the NWA or the Beastie Boys or the Run DMCs and all that stuff, I think that was in fifth grade where my dad was like, bro, you have no business listening to anything about Drop Dead Legs and Hot for Teacher. And I'm like, bro, come on, man. Sorry, Brian, go ahead. I think
No, you're
it's funny
good.
that
You're
we
good.
have those relevant stories.
I was just gonna keep us moving along here, but recently you had a podcast. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but I saw it. Dusty saw it, and I know I've shared it with every young artist that I've come across. And you were talking about how, I mean, your career was during that during the LimeWire, during
Yeah,
the streaming era,
Napster, yeah.
the Napster era.
yeah,
Yeah. So my question for you is: do you think that in today's music climate that we're in, that people would actually think Bowling for Soup sang Stacy's mom?
um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've traced it back to those days, and I think that's got to be where it happened. But who knows, man. But yeah, it was a weird time because it's funny. I think on that podcast I talked about how I'm friends with a bunch of '90s bands, and all the '90s bands are multimillionaires, and because they actually sold records. And they like look at us like, oh man, I'm so sorry that happened to you guys. Cause it's like, we literally, I think the equation is like, if we sold, I think we've sold 2.6 million total, but that's like over all the records and all the years or something. But like just Hangover You Don't Deserve would have done 4 million copies. And after you hit 1 million on one record is when the money, back then is when they would really start making money. So those bands that have double and triple platinum records are set forever. They're never going to have to worry about money. But for me, I guess it's sort of bittersweet. I mean, the money would have been nice, but to be honest, I don't think I'd be sitting here with you guys. And I'm really happy in my life. And so we didn't get 90s band rich, but we're still able to do it as a career. And so I'm happy about that aspect of it, and I'm happy that I still have, a fairly normal life. People recognize me every day, but it's not something where I can't take my kids somewhere or I can't, just walk down the street or whatever. It's not like, I mean, I'm not Billy Joe Armstrong, it's not, not like that. So,
Let me ask you about
yeah,
that trend a little bit then, because you're in that kind of punk rock genre is the best way I would put it.
Yeah, pop punk.
Yeah, pop, exactly. And it kind of went from 94 to maybe about 2008. And it kind of seems like
Yeah,
bands
well,
that
I
were
mean,
like Fall Out Boy and those bands, they seem to really figure it out on the tail end of what you guys
yeah,
had built. So do you feel like that what you guys
yeah.
did kind of helped them succeed?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that we were definitely us Blink 182. I think in some ways Green Day, although they sort of don't consider themselves the same, but Offspring, Rancid, like I think we were trailblazers and all of that. For me, um, again, the level of fame that Bowling for Soup got was directly related to how much we wanted to work, and I had kids. My daughter was born the same day we got nominated
Oh,
for a
wow.
Grammy.
Wow.
And so the absolute stardom of all of this happened the same day that fatherhood started for me. And I was not willing to be gone more than 2 weeks at a time. And that was that was absolutely to the detriment of our, of Bowling for Soup's finances, and to, what level we were going to be on, because radio stations, we couldn't commit to things and all that. But you know, the guys don't blame me for that. And I love our career,
Dude,
and but yes, for sure. I think we're definitely the ones, us, Simple Plan, All American Rejects, bands that I mentioned earlier, Newfound Glory, paved the way for bands like that to get played on popular radio. And 1985 was one of the first like massive pop punk hits on, that crossed over. And so yeah, I mean, I think those bands would probably say that, though. I think they would say, that that we were those bands that came before them were sort of the pioneers, so to speak.
I love what
Sure.
you just talked about your kiddo, having kids. There's no phrase that people used to talk about, careful what you wish for, right? And that whole deal
Yeah,
changed for you. Elaborate a little bit more for me on what that's actually means for you, because you were talking about you kind of turned down some of the fame and the fortune to live a life with your family and of
hmm,
course get married and kiddos
yeah,
and of course that's also a great segue to kind of what you're doing now. So tell us a little bit more about that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the first couple of years of being of road dogging it. We Bowling for Soup in 94 to 99. We 94 to I'm sorry, we got signed in 99, but we didn't get on a bus until 2003. So for 9 years, we were in a van, and it was hard. I lived in it for two, and insert down by the river joke. Most people do there. That's but I and we stayed. It was the best time of our lives. We stayed gone. There was no responsibility. It was just just basically making it from one gig to the next, and like you read about in the books. We lived that life, and it was great. And it was hard, and um, but yeah, I got married to my ex-wife, and we had our first kid in 2003, and I just didn't want to miss anything. I didn't really have my 2 week rule yet. I missed her first Halloween, and then I was like, I'm never doing that
Wow.
again. Never missing another Halloween. And then I missed something else, and I was like, I'm never missing that again. And so, a few years into 1985 being so massive, and then and we had three hits off that record, and then the Great Burrito Extortion Case had High School Never Ends and When We Die, which were both good songs for us. Um, Around that time is when I really started to be like, dude, I can't be gone, this long. I've got to be 2 weeks is the max. And unfortunately, my marriage had fallen apart through all of that. And but I hadn't missed a lot of stuff with my kids, Um, but yeah, it was just putting in those lines in the sand. Not all bands did that. We turned down the 2003, I think it was, Blink 182 Green Day tour, that we would have been main support on that, but it was 4 or 5 months away from home, and I'm like, I can't do that. I can't. Um, so I have zero regrets as far as any of that's concerned. I'm super happy with where my life is now, but it was really just a matter of and the thing that sucked the worst about it is I almost think I could pull it off now with FaceTime and
Yeah,
with,
technology, right?
because
Yeah.
I was calling on a calling card back home, on a payphone calling home. Like you couldn't even cell phone minutes weren't even free back then. Like you had 200 a month or whatever for $300, and if you went over that, it was crazy. And internationally, it was worse. And so, just that balance of that. And my kids are cool because they look back on it now, I think, as young adults and realize it, and Emma especially my 20-year-old daughter will say little things every once in a while, like, yeah, you never missed any of this or any of that. And, it's pretty cool that you did that, Dad. And that's, it's the long game, right? That's what you're
It's a
hoping to get
marathon, not a
to at
sprint.
the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kids looking
So
back down on
talking
you like
about
that. But
your marathon, Bowling for Soup, you
yeah,
guys just released your 11th album, Pop Drunk Snot Bread. But how did that was just last year, but how did that kind of compare to your album Just Woke Up? You know what I mean? Because they're
right. Yeah.
similar, but they're totally different in the aspect of what you're doing. So, I mean, what was that like?
Yeah. Both made during both made during COVID, by the way,
Yeah.
Brian. Thank you so much for that setup. Yeah, I made first year of lockdown, I made Pop Drunk Snot Bread and played a bunch of online shows. Second year comes around, and my buddy Zach Malloy, he's in the Nixons. He wrote "Temporary Home" for Carrie Underwood, and a great Nashville songwriter now. And he was like, "Dude, you've been talking about this for years. Let's just do it." And so we just did it. And so Just Woke Up. I knew I've always known I wanted to make a country album, but I didn't know how I wanted to do it. And here's the opportunity, and and here's the songs, and I was so stoked. I knew because essentially all of the songs that I write start out on an acoustic guitar, and they're just me. They could all be country songs easy. It's just you add a fast drums and some octave guitars. I put a little grit on my voice, and we're a pop punk band, and so with Just Woke Up, the country record, I also topically I was able to dive further into stuff. Like I didn't need to make everything funny or silly or uplifting. I could just talk from my heart and put real, you know, stories and songs and stuff out there. With there's still the little funny flair and that stuff there every once in a while, but I didn't want to be a funny country band. To me, that would have been too easy. And I think people would have just seen me as a novelty
That's
anyway,
interesting.
and I was fighting that regardless. Cause the 1985 guy, actually, Brian, it would have been the Stacy's mom guy.
Yeah.
He wants to do country now, and so I was glad that I did it the way that I did it. And man, this genre has been so gracious to me, so accepting. I think the generation of guys that are our age see it as like I paid my dues, I put in the work. They see what I'm doing. I'm back in the van. I'm out there on the road. I'm pounding the pavement. I'm working this thing. I didn't expect a free ride, and people are taking notice of that. And then the younger guys, the Casey Donahues of the world and that are like, man, I grew up listening to Girl the Bad Guys Want. This is great, and so it's been really cool. It's been super
Well, I mean,
fun. And the main
I saw
thing,
you work, and you were down at
yeah,
Lola's. You opened for Bart Crow. It was a great show, by the
yeah.
way.
Thank you, man.
I have a question.
Thanks.
So, were these recorded during COVID, or were just written during COVID and then recorded after? Because you got some great, uh, you know, accompaniments on there. You got Uncle Cracker, Frank Turner, Cody Canada, Stephen Edgerton. You know what I mean? How did all that
Yeah.
come together?
I had everybody held captive because it was during the second half of quarantine, and we were still all masked up, and it was loosening up a little bit, but nobody was playing shows. And Uncle Cracker and I have known each other forever. He had hits when we had hits when bowling. So we played a lot of radio shows together. We drank a lot of Miller Lights together, and so that one was easy. Cody Canada, I've known him since '97 because Bowling for Soup and Cross Canadian Ragweed used to play college shows together all the time. That was the big college show trick, right? They'd get a rock band and a country band, and then everybody'd show up, and they sort of leaned less one way and we leaned less one way. It's just a perfect little match, And Stephen Edgerton is in The Descendants, which is my favorite band of all time, and he's probably my favorite guitar player of all time. And I'm thankful to know him as a friend. And so when I asked, he of course said yes. And then who's the fourth one? I got Cody. I talked about Cody. Oh no, well Cody, that dude's on the Mount Rushmore of
Sure.
of
the other one's Frank Turner.
As far as I'm concerned. Frank Turner, who he's my favorite songwriter of this generation, and he and I did a weekly thing during COVID on Instagram where we just called it Back to the Metal, but it was just us bullshitting for 45 minutes. And I'm just such a fan of his music, and so yeah, it's funny because I could have kept going. I think I had talked to Josh Abbott a little bit about playing on there, and there'd been a couple of other guys that would have done something. Sebastian Bach wanted to sing on it, but I was like, we're approaching novelty again, right? If I'd have gotten somebody on every song, it would have been like, oh, okay, here we go, And so I think we peppered it in just enough.
I would agree.
And
I would agree.
Jared, I think there's something to be said about evolution too. I can really respect and appreciate that, and I say shtick affectionately, right? Your old shtick, coming up with something new, being able to do something different. And there's some really distinct differences between what you were doing before and what you're doing now. And I think what has been probably your favorite experience about really diversifying and splitting the two? I hear all the great stuff about having all these amazing artists work with you, but talk to me about your work, what you feel like has been the biggest change for you.
I think the coolest thing is, and Bowling for Soup is still growing strong. We turn 30 next year. We'll be touring all year. 20 years of A Hangover You Don't Deserve, which is the 1985 album. So big year for us next year. But I think one of the coolest things for me on this has been, I've had 3 top 30s, which, I don't know if a listener knows, I don't know if they realize how big of a deal that is in the great state of Texas. There is so much music just going constantly. There's 200 of us or so that make a living.
No, there's a bunch. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. So your promotions team, Jen and Ray, I was at the Texas Country Music Industry Awards, and we were talking about, at this point in time in the last month, there is more music out to Texas radio than there ever has been at any point in time. You're talking thousands of songs, 1,200-1,300 songs on T-R-R, 700-800 songs on Texas Country Music. Texas Internet Radio is another 500 or 600. It is amazing how many people are actually throwing their hat into the ring and going at it. And to be in that top 100 on any of it, you're experiencing and I'm experiencing is really freaking cool. And it does say a lot. Sometimes it's not where you land, it's the fact that you're on the damn thing.
It's just that you're on there and they're posting about it, and this community is so good at promoting itself. And but I think the coolest thing for me has just been we had a guy at a show the other day. He's there because he loves Royal Family. He already had the shirt. He had ordered it off the internet, and for whatever reason, that guy had no idea that I was in Bowling for Soup, that I was the voice of Chuck E. Cheese, that I was on Phineas and Ferb. That guy had no clue who I was. He just thought I was Jarett Ray Reddick, the country artist. And I'm like, that was the point in all this, is just I just want to be, I'm not running away from anything in my past. Again, I love answering questions about it. I love talking about it because it's my life. But it's super cool that the music that I've created can stand apart and can make its own audience. That's pretty
I think
cool.
that's the part about evolution that's really cool. You're not necessarily reinventing yourself, Jarett. You're giving somebody a part of you that you've never shown before, because I sometimes I don't have the best words, but you were pigeonholed in Bowling for Soup because that's what you're known for. It's almost like an actor that normally does comedies, and then all of a sudden, like Jim Carrey doing that crazy Psycho, and he was the best Psycho you've ever seen in your life, dude. Like really, I
Right.
kind of associate
Yeah.
with what you do with that, and that's really cool. It's nice to
You know,
hear.
and I
Man, that's a really good analogy because that you think about all of those comedians that have made that leap, and then there's the ones that are silly that do it, like the Zach
Oh, dude,
Galifianakis of the world,
great
where
serious
it's like,
actor, like amazing.
what, that guy is so good serious, and you're, but that's just it, that's how I'm gonna do it from now on, Dusty. Thank
Well,
you for
bro,
that. I'm gonna be
I
like,
see what you're doing, and you and I've I've heard some cool stories about you. We have some mutual friends, which I think is awesome. And I do want to talk about
yeah,
that, but I can see just based on what they said about you, and that's kind of like you're talking about the comedy, the immense amount of talent. Like I was hearing stories about barbershop style harmonies in the studio that you're laying all this stuff, drinking a couple beers,
oh yeah,
relaxing, and that speaks volumes to the talent. And I think that also allows for you to evolve and transition the way that you have, right? Um,
yeah, yeah. You talking to the Steel
well,
Records
dude,
guys?
so it's funny, I got a couple projects going with them. I do a lot of work at Rosewood and Tyler, and I have two studios of
Yeah,
choice. I work with Leaf and Kyle, and predominantly I've got an acoustic record that's a cover out record coming out with them. I just finished another record with
yeah,
them. I did the Matt Mason project, which I kind of want to talk with you about. I think
yeah,
that's a really cool thing.
yeah.
But yeah, those dudes, they are a trip to Hollywood, man. It's like what are the brothers that were in the movies that the kind of big muscle guys that were like frat boys, the Barbarian brothers? Is that who that is? The
Oh
That's
yeah, I
who they
remember
remind
that.
me of. My first experience with
Yeah.
those guys was the weirdest, most surreal. Like, dude, they are genius. ADD. Did you experience the mad scientist stuff that they were doing? Well,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and you're like, holy
Yeah.
shit, man! These guys know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, it was really funny. I like how they both have their little dynamic. They're a good
They're
team, that's
very
for sure.
amazing, and and you're friends with Jackie Brock, right?
Oh yeah, so I've known Jackie for many years because he used to promote, well, Nixon
Yeah,
shows
dude,
actually.
he's got a pedigree himself, right?
Yeah, that guy's something
Yeah,
else.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about working on that Matt Mason record. I've got some experience there. What did you, man? Was it cool to do Hop a
Yeah.
Train? I know that song is genius. Matt's a
Yeah.
profound country music writer. Tell me what that felt like for you.
The cool thing is, yeah, I didn't even know who Matt Mason
That's
was.
crazy.
I got asked to do this, and their pitch was, Leaf Shively's pitch was something that was hard to say no to where I'm at right now, career wise in country, because essentially you get a song and a video, and it's, gratis. And so I was like, man, okay, I'll check out this Matt Mason guy. I'd love to do it. That sounds great. And I'm still trying to decide where I'm going to record next and whatever. So it's a good opportunity to check out another studio but anyway, long story short, I normally record everything here in my house, and I was just like, just send me the track and I'll do it. And they're like, we really would like to do it down here, and I'm like, you know what, I'll just go down there and do it. And so I checked out Matt Mason first, and first couple of songs I heard, I was just like, this is amazing, I'm in. And then I heard Hop a Train, and I'm like, man, if nobody's done Hop a Train, I want that. And he was like, you can have it. And so, yeah, I went down there. First of all, I mean, they live in the smallest town I've ever seen in
Grand
my
Cane,
life.
Louisiana. Yep.
There is nothing there. In fact, I didn't eat dinner because I usually don't eat when I sing because I'll burp, and so and I don't like to have a full belly because I sing from my diaphragm. It's a whole thing, and but I'll drink beers. And so I just had this stack of beer cans, and I'm just doing that.
I asked him.
And,
So it's funny. With the day after you left, Leaf called me, and I was like, "How'd that go?" I said, "Man, looked like y'all pounded some beers." He goes, "Yeah, a few." Said y'all had a good time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we had a good time, but they had me so I just thought, well, I'll just order some dinner after. No, that's not an option. So I ended up eating, for dinner, just whatever was in the kitchen at the Airbnb that I was in.
Oh, did you stay at that little house that's kind of behind there? Dude,
Oh yeah,
hey,
yeah.
so let me tell you something. There's some good, like for me, like literally what I think about there. There's some decent options for Airbnb food, right? Uh,
Oh yeah, when you walk into the
yeah, the little
room or whatever.
kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bag of Cheetos and some grandma's
Yeah, bro.
cookies. You know, it wasn't. You know,
I'm a huge granola bar
it wasn't
guy.
the worst dinner I've
Yeah,
ever
they had a bunch of
had.
granola bars there. Well, so think about that perspective. They're kind of a new studio on the front here, and they're bringing a
Yeah,
specific dynamic to Texas music that's a little different. You can tell by the recordings that you and I did. Mine was very similar. They invited me to do it, and you can't pass it up, right? Especially
right.
for
Yeah,
me
you
being a
can't.
guy, and I don't know how much you know about my background. I was in music and then retired and got into the corporate world, and then COVID made music an opportunity again. Man, the part that I'm
Okay.
at in my career, it's hard to turn down those type of opportunities. And I did a
Yeah.
Christmas song with those guys last Christmas. That dude, we had a blast. And when you have opportunities like that, it's hard to miss. What was your favorite part of going down there and recording with those guys? I've got some things that are mine, but what's your favorite part?
I guess my favorite. First of all, they're just great guys. I mean, there was this actually one of my favorite stories about working with Roop doing
Dude,
vocals
he's
was
killer,
amazing. I mean,
bro.
he's
Yeah.
really good. And I don't find a lot of engineers that I like recording my vocals. I either record with my best friend Linus or I record myself. Maybe sometimes my friend Casey Giorio up here at Valve Studios, but I'm just real fast. I don't like to stop. I don't like to talk about the take before. I've been doing this a really long time. I'm not trying to, I'm not flexing, but I know what I did wrong after I sang everything, and so, and I just let's go, 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 and again, 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 and man, he was great. We got on the same page. We even got on the same page as far as like some of the odd rhythms
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
that Matt does. And I was just like, man, I'd really rather put this straight on the beat. He'd be like, yeah, me too. But my favorite story was we were sitting in there in the console room, and they had a guitar on the wall, a Nash. They had this Nash sort of
Yeah.
Strat
I know
looking
which one you're
guitar
talking
on
about.
the wall. Yeah, and so I just like, oh man, that's a rad guitar. Where you guys get that at the Tone Shop? And they both just looked at each other like, how in the hell would you know that? Like, because apparently they went on a search for the best sounding Strat. They went to, 100 music stores and guitar shows and stuff and couldn't find it. And they finally found it at the Tone Shop. And I'm like, well, those are my boys, man. They bring in all those they go and try those things out and then bring them
Oh
in,
yeah,
and I'm
bro.
like,
Yeah.
you don't get a bad sounded Nash from the Tone Shop. And so, you don't get a bad sounding guitar from the Tone Shop. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest. But um, anyway, they were still talking about that the next day. Like, can't believe you knew where we got that, And so I love small world shit like
Yeah,
that.
bro.
It's always was. But I told them that studio is so rad, and I was just like, man, y'all ought to turn this. They were talking about. I don't know what they ended up doing with that
Dude,
side
it's
room that
funny.
they
I've
had,
heard
but I
this
was like,
story. Go ahead.
okay, because I said you should turn this into either the most badass lounge ever, or you should turn it into sets for TikTok videos, and like let people come in here and like because like put a cool wall there and a green screen there, whatever. But I was just like, but really, what I would do is put a badass green room in here because that's how you're going to get bands to come in. Because a lot of times the drummer's sitting there all day; he needs something to do.
Yeah.
So and then I drank all their beer.
Well, dude, so it's funny. There's actually, and nobody knows this, but there's a hidden room that actually has a bed in it, and I
Yeah,
don't want them to have to spend any money when I'm there. So most of the time, I just stay in the studio. I just climb in that bed, and I
yeah,
do have to drive to Shreveport to eat. But
yeah.
I've spent a lot of time, and they've got some really cool stuff, and like the stage props. Did you see the Audio Slave mirror, the big flame,
Oh
and then
yeah,
the shit from
oh yeah.
Motley Crue's L.A. was the L.A. tour that they did,
Yeah,
and then somebody told me like
yeah.
Tommy Lee drum kit's going to be there in like a week.
Oh wow, yeah. No, the Streets of LA or whatever. I can't remember what that's called either. But later Motley Crue stuff, they've got the props in there, which is really really
Yeah,
cool. I
the
mean,
cool and like all the. Did you your video that you shot there? Did you shoot it at Steel Records?
yeah. So they just shot while I was singing, and they put together a video there. That they're the guy that does photos for them.
No,
all
so
the
you worked
time.
with Josh then, yeah.
Josh, yeah, great
Yeah.
guy, super quiet. I was like, man, this guy hates me. He never says anything, and then he's just the sweetest
Oh
dude
yeah,
ever.
dude, totally cool.
And,
And man,
yeah.
he's one of those guys
Yeah.
that when he actually says something, you like listen because he doesn't say
Yeah.
nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's
Yeah.
not like, hey, he said something.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
absolutely.
he's dead on.
Yeah, no, it's a great experience with those guys, and that's why I sort of knew when you said that you had heard that I could do the barbershop thing, because I just kept putting harmonies like, do you want to do another one? You want to do a higher one? And they'd be like, yeah, let's
Dude,
do
yeah.
it. So,
Hey,
we had some fun.
Jarett, they were floored. So think about this from a realistic standpoint. You know, we know rock guys are talented, but in that point, that's not very normal. That's not common. It's not common for somebody to be able to do that. You know, I sing harmonies for myself. I can sing the 3 and the 5. But man, it's a struggle sometimes, right? So for your ability to be able to do that, dude, they went on
thank you,
and
man.
on and on. Like I almost think you need to go make a barbershop record now of your own.
Well, that's Bowling for Soup. There are so many vocals on a Bowling for Soup record. I mean, we have our oohs and ahs, and all of those have a 3 to 4 part stack. And then all of our harmonies, even if you're only really hearing 2, there's usually one above and one below, and almost always a low octave on a chorus. And, they're just a bunch of stuff that we just learned to do over the years that to me is second nature. So, it's fun when I get to do that, in a new setting. It's definitely something, I mean, and I've done it in here before where I'll just make a stack and put it on
That's
TikTok,
cool.
And fans love that, because any sort of like inside thing that people can see, it's just crazy to me that we can do. I realize this is way off topic, but like the stuff that we can just do in our house now is it's just crazy.
You were talking about
just a 14-year-old kid can make. Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
Brian.
you were talking about a thing on TikTok, just exactly that. You were talking about you're laying down a vocal track and then just adding a doubler, and man, just something simple like that. When everybody else normally goes towards the delay or the reverb or whatever it is, just adding a doubler with a little bit of delay on the double instead of putting a delay filter on there, man, it totally different way of thinking of things, but it's cool.
Or just offset them. The way that I do it is I try to make them as exact as possible without using any software. And then I just really, it's the sneaking that double in to taste, and then maybe bumping that up a smidgen on the chorus, just to thicken that voice up. Because it's, Dave Grohl doesn't sound like that, and you know what I mean? Like that dude's probably doing 3 or 4 layers on his voice.
And that's an old studio trick, right?
100%. Well, that's why Ozzy sounds the way he does. Actually, he's that guy. It's a loose double, but it's just so close that it just makes his voice sound like it's got all this ambience to it. But again, that's the beauty of the recording.
Well, and the old country tricks from back in the day, country vocalists would do that double that you're talking about just to fatten up tone, to change, to make sure, especially if somebody's got a really nice low vocal. I'm always jealous of the dude that sings like Josh Turner because I don't sing like Josh Turner, right?
Oh, yeah, no,
we're not singing anything.
Right?
Mine's like long black train. He's like, oh, bro, So I'm like, I'm a hater. I hate him. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that dude, man. Yeah, that's something else to listen to him sing, man. It's really cool. I envy that as well because I can sing pretty much as high as I want. I can do the metal stuff if I want to and all that. I just put a video out of me doing Skid Row the other day, and
I saw that.
But that low stuff to me, and really to have like some actual texture in there.
I'm so jealous of that. And a lot of those guys, man, they're not vocal acrobats, but the tone of their voices, and that's you're talking about Texas country. That there's a lot of amazing tonal vocalists in this scene, right? That new kid, that Ryder Grimes kid, that is just, dude. Oh my God, he's 18.
That dude is up against me for emerging artist of the year, actually, and pretty terrifying. He is.
So I met him at the awards. Man, amazing kid. I've known his dad, Rod, for a long, long time. And so it's such a small community. I had a kid last night. I work with DJ over at Smith Music a bunch. We had a kid named Caleb Sutton that just graduated high school. And here's what freaks me out, because I don't remember this when I was this age. And you tell me your thoughts. This kid comes out, and man, I didn't know him. And man, he's kind of a little built kid. He looks like they just won the state championship at their high school football in Abilene. And he throws down this vocal that I'm telling you, it wasn't Chris Young, but it was Chris Young. And this kid's 18.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at DJ, and DJ and I are looking at each other. I go, where in the hell did this guy come from? And then there's another girl named Peyton Riley. I'm the little 14-year-old that's nominated for Texas Country Music Award. Dude, she comes in and has this amazing voice. Where did all that come from? I don't remember kids being like that when I was that age.
No, I mean, it's changed so much. My 10-year-old's in School of Rock. And, Cody Canada has a School of Rock down there in Braunfels. And, man, it's amazing what kids, just given the tools can do, and you see, if you're on the internet, I saw these, you always see these 3 little kids playing, Ozzy songs or Black Sabbath or, stuff on the internet. It's just, they've got access to it, and the education is there for them if they want to learn it. It's like anything else. I was talking about the other day about how when I was a kid, I could name like every single person on a sports field, even if I wasn't really paying that much attention to sports. But I knew every basketball player, football player, and baseball player. And now, I don't even know all the guys on the teams that I root for anymore, and so it's like that was accessible, and they can just absorb all that up. And, given a few little, and plus they're learning to perform on their phone.
Yes.
They're constantly doing constantly doing these videos, like, what's up, guys? I'm going to show you my room today, and you're just, they're learning that at 8. And, so they're just, it's just this generation, as far as performers are concerned it's deadly, man. They're so good now. It's just crazy.
I'm floored at the pitch. Like these 2 kids last night, and I'm talking about it because it's refreshing. I'm floored at the pitch. I looked at DJ, and this is no shadow on anybody. I looked at DJ and I go, man, these kids, and musicianship too, like guitar playing, and I looked at DJ and I'm like, bro, these kids are rivaling half the people that we have here that have multiple records out, right? Then the other thing that killed me, the kid, Caleb Sutton, man, he's over there just ripping it off like this Brent Mason style chicken picking, right? He's been playing for 3 years. 3 years. You and I.
Well, that's the other thing that they have is time. You know what I mean? Like they can, that's how I got to be. I was a drummer first, and how I got to be, able to be. When I was 14, I was playing in bands with 18, 20-year-olds, and I was playing in bars, at a young age, but I had time to sit and play and to do that, and so they're going to pick it up quicker. Than plus, just that it's it's so much muscle memory and dexterity and just mechanics and those young brains, man, they can just put that shit together so quickly.
You mentioned the School of Rock. I don't know how you learned, and I know we're kind of getting long on time, but man, I laughed. I learned the first song I learned was by Billy Joe Royal, and it was "I Can Help." And do you remember that? I don't know, but I had to learn that out of a book. There was nobody showing me videos on how to place my fingers, and I feel like I'm a decent guitar player, right? But I laugh at these kids, man. They've got all these tools, and man, the ones that are diving in, School of Rock, instructional videos, stuff that's free. My parents could barely afford braces. They're not going to pay for me to go to guitar lessons, right?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it wasn't cheap. And, so you're so right. It's cool. But I mean, it's cool for us too. It's like, as a Pro Tools guy that most anything that I learned these days, I learned just enough. I learned what I need to know. I don't need to know a whole bunch of stuff. And so chances are if something new pops up on recording software, I don't know it. So I get on Google and some kid teaches me how to do it, and it's great. Works out every time.
We're getting kind of close to the end of our podcast here, but I did want to ask this one question. It's kind of a two-part question, so answer it however you want. But um, what is your most fond memory over the course of the years for Bowling for Soup? And then what is your most fond memory so far in the Texas country music scene? And kind of how do those compare?
Yeah.
Great question, Brian.
I'll be honest. With Bowling for Soup, there's so many, and it's just been, one good thing about us is we never had like a huge blow up. Everything was always kind of a steady climb for us, and so we never really had a big, drop either. It's just sort of ebbs and flows. It comes and goes, and right now we're on a high tide. Um, I mean, walking into a record store in another country and seeing your CD on the top 10 wall is pretty amazing. We just went to Austria for the first time and Italy for the first time, not with the military. So like the first time playing to actual, people out in the public. And, seeing just the entire audience knowing the words to every song, not just the hits, I mean, that is immeasurable. It's so hard to explain. So, I mean, it's that kind of stuff just, it just all runs together. It's just all been this insane experience. But, honestly, for country, it's just been, really the best part has just been meeting, musicians such as yourselves, radio people, just the people. I love this genre, man. I love this community. It's so cool. And it's like, I honestly wish I'd have done it sooner, though I think that the timing that I did it in was right. But, I'm just absolutely loving it, man. I've made so many friends. I've only been at it year and almost a year and a half. Live band is right at about a year, and just the experiences already so far have been amazing. And so it's just a little bit more personal, I think, from the country aspect of things because the Bowling for Soup machine is rather large. There's we don't really do radio anymore. There's not really a reason we don't go for hits. We don't have any sort of idea that we're going to have another hit. That's silly. And so, those personal aspects of Bowling for Soup are sort of gone. So it's nice to have that back in the country world and to be able to sit, I honestly, so I hope this comes out right, but like at a Bowling for Soup show, I can't just sit at the bar while the opening band is playing because I would just be a distraction. Like it would be very rude of me to do that because it would be just one thing after another and talking to people and really, it's just not the right thing to do. In the country thing, I can sit at the bar all night. Maybe a few people come up or whatever. It's awesome. You just kind of sit out there and so I love the juxtaposition of both, to be honest. Just and people will come up to me at the country shows and be like, "You're just sitting out here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just sit out here." It's great.
Well, it's not super intrusive. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Right.
You got 3 shows coming up. Like I said, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I got 2 tickets to give away for your August 18th show at Dances of Relief, and then the 19th you're at the Iron Horse Pub back home at Wichita Falls, and then the 26th you're at the Grenada Theater in Dallas. So hopefully people get out there. I know that they can go to your website. What is it? JarettRayReddick.com/tour. And you can get tickets right off the website.
Yep, or just JarettRayReddick.com, and you'll see everything. I'm blogging now. All the music is there. Got new merch up this week, and just all kinds of stuff. Follow me on social media, and I'm out there. I'm coming to a town near you, whether you like it or
not. I got you, man. Well, dude, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for agreeing to come back and get that date rescheduled, man. And I know we've kind of entertained connecting at some point and playing. That'll happen in the next year or so, I promise. We'll probably wind up hanging out somewhere. And I'll bring those crazy-ass people from Steel Records with me.
Hey, let's do it, man. Anytime. Just let me know. If Bowling for Soup's not on the road, I'll be
right on,
there.
brother.
Awesome. Well, Dusty, you want to go ahead and take us out, man?
Man, thank you guys for joining us on Texas Country today. Dusty Moats, Brian Sprague, and of course, Jaret Reddick of Texas country music fame now. Man, seeing some evolution, still rocking the Bolin's Pursuit, but also taking the Texas country scene by storm. Thank you to R. Watson Boots, smithmusic.com, Texas Select Beverage, Sharp Leather Supply. Brian, remember the group of guys you wanted to say thank you to? Knock them out.
I just wanted to say thanks again to Cinco Audio for the microphone support and Fort Worth Camera for helping me out last week. So
that's awesome, guys. Well, hey, Jared, thank you, brother. God bless you, man. So good to talk to you. And hey, keep the Prime in your refrigerator.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks for having me.
You can't choose the blood that's in your veins. You can't redo yesterday. You can go by a brand new name, but your heart still beats the same. Thank God that'll never change. So here's to the sisters I never knew I had, and to the brother that I did. My kids and my mother and the man I called my dad. He gave me everything he had. No castles or thrones, but a lifetime of love and memory. Here's to my royal family. Looking back is easy now, we've come so far. No more shooting for the stars. We never needed crowns, we know who we are. Deep breaths coming from this guitar. It all started in a bar. So here's to the sisters I never knew I had, and the brothers that I did. To driving all night, waking up in the van. We didn't do it for the fans. No castles or thrones, but a lifetime of love and memory. Here's to my royal family. There's a girl that loves me now for who I am, and with her came a little man. Looks just like his mama, talks like his dad, thinks his brother might be Batman. Thank God he had a plan. So here's to the sisters I never knew I had, and to the brother that I did. My sons and my daughter and a lifetime of friends. Some we wish that we still had. No castles or thrones, but a lifetime of love and memories. Love those memories. Here's to my royal family. Here's to my royal family.